Hey, welcome aboard, everybody. It's Will with Rocked on Detroit Lions going solo tonight. So it's going to be a little bit of a different episode tonight. We are switching gears and kind of going back to the original series of Off the Cuff and kind of just reviewing the Detroit Lions and the current events and kind of what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. It's kind of where we started this series. So Andy can't be with us tonight. He had a rough day there, some heat exhaustion. So hopefully he's going to be feeling better soon. But we'll dive right into it here tonight. So I wanted to review something kind of interesting, and I've been looking at a lot of different headlines over the last couple of weeks. The Lions are really garnering a lot of attention, not only for what they did in the draft, but what's been happening throughout mandatory camp as well as OTAs, and it's very interesting to me to see what a lot of these journalists out there are saying. Even some of the big media networks and how they're really changing their tune now about the Detroit Lions and where they think the Lions are headed this season. And I don't think that I really want to wait. There's a bombshell of a headline that I read, and we'll start with this one right away. And it said that, and this was by Heavy.com, Dave Holcomb. Man, did he come out with a banger and said that the Lions, Jared Goff, receive the bold Super Bowl endorsement. How much Kool-Aid are these guys really drinking? I mean, not one of these guys has been a Lions fan ever in their entire life. And every single one of us has, really just wanted to win a darn playoff game, let alone a Super Bowl. We haven't won a championship since, 57. So, yeah, we're a tad bit overdue. But for some of these journalists out there to go ahead and give the Detroit Lions an endorsement of a Super Bowl run, man, those are big shoes to fill. I would love to see it happen. I'm not saying that the Lions can't do it. Just a lot has to go right for any team to do it, not just the Detroit Lions. But in his article, he starts right off with how the Lions finished in 2022, and it has a lot to do with what they're thinking is going to happen in 2023. So, apologize, my mic is a little out of touch here. So, with that being said, there's going to be an interesting timeline that takes place when the season starts, and to see how well the Lions really jump out and attack the first football game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So he goes into this article. He speaks about 2022. The way the Lions finished. And they're really starting to think that there's big things on the horizon in 2023, which rightfully so. A lot of us feel that way, especially when we get into some of these other headlines where it talks about what's been going on in OTAs. And the one guy that I'm really excited about is doing really well. So it really doesn't get much bigger than this media personality, Ross Tucker, who is apparently thinking, this for the Lions, that he's hyped up Goff and Detroit, and he thinks that they're legitimate Super Bowl contenders. So, hey, if it happens, it happens. I'll be the first one to say that I would do anything and everything to get to a Super Bowl, or to get a Super Bowl ticket if the Lions will make it. So, excuse me. It's been a long day, and still battling the whole thyroid thing after having it removed. So it's still hurts. But so Jared Goff showed that he can win playoff games. He can win road playoff games. He's shown that he can get to the Super Bowl in the past. So I don't put it past the Detroit Lions for making a Super Bowl run. But I want to see him win a playoff game first. And that's where my bar is set for the Lions this season. Is I want to see him get to the playoffs, get that first playoff win, and knock the dust off, if you will, because if they can just get to the playoffs, and even have a shot at winning the first playoff game, Motown's going to go nuts. It's going to be a sight like East Lansing is during March Madness, or during football season when half the city was on fire. Couches were burning everywhere. Excuse me, I keep yawning. So I think Motown's going to be the same way. So that's the first big headline. Sean McVay even went to Goff's aid and said that he feels like Goff is playing much better as a quarterback in Detroit than he did with the Rams, and that's an interesting kind of parody, if you will, because when I analyzed what Goff did, sorry, it keeps happening. What Goff did in 2022, and you compare his stats side by side, he had a Super Bowl season. And I think it was 2018 when he led the Rams to the Super Bowl. I mean, when you compare those stats, I mean, they're neck and neck. I mean, they're almost a mirror image of each other. So to say that Goff can't throw the deep ball or can't lead his team to victory, he's done it. He's been doing it at a high level since he's entered the NFL. He's only had 2 difficult seasons since he's been in the NFL, which is a heck of a lot better than the majority of quarterbacks in the league. And now he has the talent to do it. And they just added to that talent. So, I think the Lions have a shot. I'm not ready to mail my ticket in yet to say that the Lions are going to the Super Bowl in 2023. But man, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's a winnable conference. I mean, let's just put it this way. There's no reason why the Lions can't win the NFC North. But we've seen it happen before where they've won the majority of the games in the North and somehow get left out of the playoffs. Happened last year. It's happened in years past. And they have to be able to win the non-conference games. And the Lions really need to do 50-50 or better on non-conference games this season to even have a shot at making the playoffs. And we'll see what happens. So first headliner, man, heavy.com. So shout out to Dave Holcomb. Man, I love your enthusiasm, brother, but I'm just not ready to sign my bid for a Detroit Lions Super Bowl run this season. We'll see what happens. So next headline. The next headline is the Detroit Lions Week 1 OTA observation. So this one goes back to May 25th. Get a sip of my Faygo here. Love Faygo. And this was by Jeremy Reisman. So he's one of the local guys. He's been around for a long time, does a phenomenal job. Has a pretty good podcast too. So I do listen to him. He has a lot of interesting things to say. But back on May 25th, he said that the Lions rookies are being brought along slowly, which we expected. The Lions are doing things different when it comes to bringing in these rookies and how they're getting them ready. It's not, feet to the fire or sink or swim mentality, like it is around the NFL. In a lot of different clubs, that's just how they do it. They bring the guys in, they throw them into the mix, and it's either you make it or you don't. And I hate to say it, but the Lions were kind of in that same boat for about 20 years, 20 seasons of drafting, where they did a very poor job at setting these guys up for success. So it's good to hear that the Lions are starting to do things from the perspective of how can we set you up for success? Yes, you have to do your part as a player. You have to study the playbook. You have to show up ready and in shape. And you need to take care of your body, before and after practice, and definitely while you're off, and away from the facility. So if they can just do those few things, the Lions are more of teachers now. They've adopted this role of really teaching at a high level, mentoring at a high level, and getting these guys in a position to win and getting them in a position to succeed. So that's what I like to see. With the quarterbacks, there was some definite rust that Jared Goff had to shake off during OTAs. He came out flat. The defense was crushing him, and that's something that I want people to be very clear about. The Detroit Lions having an issue with an offense in the beginning of the season. Nothing's won in May. Nothing's won in June. Nothing's won in July. It's okay to come out a little bit flat after having a long season and a long off season. It happens. You're just not reading all the other headlines from the other 31 NFL teams where it's happening in almost every single club around the league. But here's the good thing. Would you rather the defense let up touchdown after touchdown after big play after big play, or little chunk after little chunk equaling big chunks and first downs all day long in practice? Is that what you would rather see? Because if that's what you want to see, then you might as well go back to the first 6 weeks of 2022, and that's what you're going to get. So if this defense is coming out firing on all cylinders and they are marketably a better defense, not just on paper, but with their skill level, with their experience, with the age comes experience. This is a much improved defense. So we should see Goff having some trouble, and that's okay. The old saying goes, iron sharpens iron. So if the Lions defense is given the offense fits, that's fine. Goff and the offense are going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to get better. They're going to have to get more efficient. They're going to have to win some reps. They're going to have to get unique. Ben Johnson's going to have to pull out some different plays. Whatever the case may be, that's a good problem to have. So for the next day, the second day of mandatory minicamp, Goff came out firing and was given the defense fits. And that's what you want to see. Goff got his butt kicked on day one. He goes back and he thinks about it probably all night long and wonders, what did we do wrong today? How do we fix it? And he came in ready to go. Who knows? Probably sent off a few texts to his offensive buddies and said, look, this is what we need to do. This is what happened today, and this is what we're going to do tomorrow. And it worked. So I'm not saying I know that he did that, but I can only assume that he did. So again, to recap this, it's okay that Goff came out flat. Don't read too much into it. It happens every season with every team, with just about every quarterback. But it's not just the quarterbacks. I mean, the wide receivers are going to have issues. The running backs are going to be a little bit slower, gimpy, or, come up lame here or there on a few plays. The defensive backs are going to get torched here and there. The defensive ends are going to get, pancaked. It's just football. It's just that simple. It's just football. Now, here's the nice thing. We had two rookies that really came out and shined during this mandatory minicamp, if you will. Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta really coming out and banging away and doing a good job. Sam, to me, and I hate to say it, when you look at the guy, he's goofy, right? He's a goofy character. He just exudes this goofiness about him that I think is going to be fun to watch. I think he's going to be a very good fit to this Detroit Lions offense. I have a feeling he's probably a little bit of a character, on and off the field. He's probably a little bit of a prankster. I don't know. He just gives me that vibe. But he's been doing well. He's been giving his old buddy at Iowa, Jack Campbell, fits. And again, that's okay for Campbell to come out slow. He's got to learn. And there's going to be days that Campbell wins against Laporta. And, there's going to be other players that they go up against, any given moment of the day during practice and they win or lose. It's just the nature of the game. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But it's good to see that Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta are coming out fired on all cylinders. Here's the interesting thing about Gibbs. Not only did I call Gibbs as being the Lions' first pick in the first round, But what we're seeing is you're gonna see this season where Gibbs is going to step in not only as a running back, but he's going to be able to go out wide or in the slot, which is something DeAndre Swift really never did. 90% of DeAndre Swift's snaps happened in the backfield. Very rarely did he go outside of the tight end. So we're going to see somebody finally. We could have Montgomery in the backfield, and we can have Gibbs out in the slot. We can have St. Brown on the other side. Jameson, whenever he gets his butt back in week 7, out wide. You're going to have a lot of speed. Sam Laporta, on the other side of that. You're going to have a lot of speed and size coming at you. And defenses are going to have a really rough time stopping this offense. So to see Jahmyr Gibbs playing well and picking things up very quickly, he's going to be the ace. I have a feeling that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to become a much better player, more well-rounded player, and he's going to have more instant success than I feel that Jameson Williams will. Williams is having a tough go at it. He's got a lot of drops, and that's something that I haven't researched yet to see, did he have a problem with drops in college at Alabama? Because he sure does right now. He's dropping a lot of balls. Whether he's just not into it, whether his mind is somewhere else, who knows? But he's got to get it fixed. First round pick, number 12 overall. You got to get your butt in the game. You got to get your head in the game, and you can't be dropping balls like this constantly. You just won't play if you do. And that's the thing about Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. They're going to put the best 11 on the field. And if you're not able to hack it, doesn't matter what position you were picked at. It doesn't matter where you were picked, how early you were picked. You're not going to play. That's the nice thing about this Lions organization is they've really turned around how they do business and how they set up their team to win. It's not about, I took this guy at 12 in 2022. He's got to start. That's not the Lions. They're not going to play that game. Other teams, they do. And the Lions did forever. If you were taken in the first round, you're on the field. They felt like they invested too much money in such a high draft pick in you that there was no reason why you shouldn't be on the field. And it's not that way. And you know what? Unfortunately, Williams screwed up. And now he doesn't really have much for guaranteed money. So if he doesn't suit up, if he doesn't play, he doesn't get paid. All right, so back to coming on slowly here. The rookies are having a little bit of a learning session, if you will, where they're getting introduced to the playbook and the scheme and how things are going to roll a little bit slower than usual, and that's okay. I'd rather see these guys learn it well than feet to the fire, sink or swim, and then the season comes around and they're just not ready. So on to the next one. All right, another Lions headline. And again, these headlines are kind of perfect because they're helping us recap kind of what's happened over the last few weeks. We are in this lull period, so it's really hard to find content to put out. It's really hard to talk about the Lions. The last practice, I believe, was today. So there's really not going to be a whole lot coming out. All right, Veterans Lions running back expected to lose a roster spot to a UDFA standout. Now, I can tell you that I'm not surprised in this article and who they're talking about, because I pegged Ibrahim as somebody to make the roster as soon as I heard the Lions picked him up and watched some of his highlights. And being a Big Ten guy, I got to see him a couple of times over the last few years. He's got some skill. He's got some speed, and he's a guy that exudes grit. He's a Dan Campbell guy all the way. One of the first couple of days in rookie minicamp, he was the only one touching the ball. Gibbs was out, and I don't think anybody else was really able to run. So he was getting almost every single touch for 2-3 days in a row, or whatever it was. So he was pretty burned out. But you know what? That's only going to help him. He's getting all of those extra touches and all of that extra experience. Yeah, he put his body through it, and he's going to have a really rough season if he does make the roster, especially if they're going through such a tough practice. But yeah, this guy excites me. So Ibrahim, former Minnesotan golfer out of the Big Ten, they're saying, and this was by Nathan Daughtry, and this again was Heavy Sports, Heavy on the Lines, heavy.com. They're expecting that Ibrahim is going to take Craig Reynolds' position. Now, I'm not a big fan of Craig Reynolds not making the team. He's one of my favorites just because of his personal story. And I know, it's hard to keep guys on the team because you love them, or you feel so a certain way about them, where they have a unique backstory. But Craig Reynolds is also another guy that exudes that kind of grit, tolerance, a Dan Campbell guy, somebody that's going to give you your all, or give you his all, and really battle. So this is going to be a good battle once they get into training camp. I can't see that they really line up together. I see Craig Reynolds as a little bit more of a bruiser when it comes to running back size and how he runs. I see Ibrahim as more of a finesse speedster type of back. So they're kind of different, but I would love to see Ibrahim get a shot on this roster. If he can stay healthy, he's that next level. He reminds me of and he's bigger, but Darian Sproles is kind of what my mock would be like a Sproles. And again, I know he's much bigger than Sproles, but speed wise and how they run, that's how I see Ibrahim fitting into this offense. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's also having a good off season so far. So we expect this to get hot and heavy real quick in training camp, and I expect Reynolds to bring it. He's not going to back down. But man, Jahmyr Gibbs also showing off his receiving skills out of the backfield. It's just been an exciting offseason all the way around. So, all right, on to the next one. Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson expecting a huge step forward for this offense. Now, it was also said the other day where Ben Johnson said that he's in it for the long haul with the Lions. Yeah, I don't think so. I have a feeling that if the Lions do well again this year and they are able to make it through the playoffs, I don't see Ben Johnson sticking around. I would love to say I'm wrong. I would hope that I'm going to be wrong because I don't want to see the guy go anywhere. But he's just he's too much of a hot commodity right now in the NFL. It's difficult to find young offensive coordinators that have so much more talent and ability in this league that can take that next step. And Ben Johnson is that guy. So we'll see where it goes. But when we look back at at what they did in the self-scouting and all of the plays from last year, Ben said that he came away with it personally, that even if we didn't run one new play this year, if we ran all the same plays from last year, that they would expect a better offense because we have to execute better than what they did. So that's kind of a unique statement. He's basically stating that, look, if we don't do a darn thing different, these guys have more time in the system, and he's expecting that they're going to get better because they made a lot of mistakes last season, and they have to execute better on the game plan. They have to execute better on the scheme. They have to execute better, on the route tree. Goff has to execute better at making sure he's getting down to his checkdowns even quicker than what he did last year. Goff spread the ball all around, last season. There was a couple of games where he hit 10, 11 players with a pass. That's just insane that he's getting the ball out to everybody. Johnson went on to say that they did a lot of nice things a year ago, and it really means nothing going forward to this year. that they have to be a lot better in terms of the execution, and that they should be, because we should know what the problems for the plays that we are running now. I think what he's saying there is, based on the run plays, the protections, the pass concepts, the issues that they faced, there was probably some problems that were identified in individual plays that now they understand how to go and attack that differently or teach it differently, so that it's executed at a much higher level this season. Johnston went on to say that personally he expects a huge step forward in terms of growth, the knowledge base of our players, the experience they have under their belts now. And so that's why the emphasis has been on the basics. He wants to rebuild from the ground up, institute fundamentals, build the foundation of mechanics, and then he'll be able to sprinkle in his genius as they get rolling here in training camp. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what this offense does. Look, I have no doubt in my mind that Goff is going to have this team ready to go. If Goff stays healthy, if this offensive line stays healthy, and even if, just a few of Goff weapons are able to stay healthy, this is going to be a top 5, top 6 offense again this season. But I think at a different level. I think that they're going to far surpass what they did last season. At the beginning of last season, I thought that Goff would be around 4,700 yards, and I know it was a lofty goal. I also thought that he'd get around 33 touchdowns. So I wasn't too far off. I pretty much just averaged kind of what he did, throughout his career, and kind of took it from, hey, they got a much better offensive line. There's and again, going into another year, there's no reason why they shouldn't have been better. So I'm going to take a look again and average everything out, and I'll put my predictions out here in a couple of weeks after we get through camp. So we're expecting the Detroit Lions offense to take a huge step forward, thanks to Ben Johnson and the way that he's setting up this offense this offseason, in his execution standards and his methods of teaching are just they're not I don't know, how do I say it? It's unmatched, in my opinion. There's a few teams out there, the Chiefs and some other, like Reed is just an offensive genius. The Eagles, they do things differently, and that's how I view Ben Johnson. He's different, and it's a good different. It's one of those difference that you can't just emulate. You can't copy and paste, and that's what the Lions have right now, is this uniqueness that is allowing them to kind of skirt underneath the radar, if you will, and then come game time, they're able to kind of shock people, shock the opposing defense a little bit, because they didn't expect what they're seeing during the game. Another one by Jared Goff here. Kind of recapping what McVay said earlier, that Jared Goff is a much better QB with the Lions than the Rams. Dan Campbell said that as well. And this was an article by Donnie Joseph through the New York Post. This never gets old. One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So McVay, he threw Goff to the gutter. Campbell picks him up. Holmes picks him up. And, Goff is just shining. He's doing a hell of a job in Detroit. I'm sick of all these haters out there saying that he can't throw the deep ball. Goff has finished top 5 categories last season for the deep ball. Throughout his career, he ranks like 5th in deep balls over 20, 30, 40, 50 yards. So I hate to say it, but you're wrong if you don't think that Goff can throw the deep ball all because of one play that you think was underthrown. You're wrong. There was plenty of players, Shark being one of them, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Reynolds, Khalif Raymond. They all caught deep balls last year. And these weren't just full of yak. They were in the air. And he can do it. And he's going to surprise you again this season, especially when Jameson Williams gets back on the field. Hopefully he gets back on the field and is able to have some sort of continuity with Goff, because that's what they're missing right now. Williams has been all over the place. He's not able to get his shit together. For whatever reason, he's just not putting it together. So Jared Goff, a better quarterback with the Detroit Lions than he was with the Rams. And Dan Campbell thinks that what you're seeing is a guy who just put his head down and went back to work. He worked on what he could. He tried to improve on what he could. He's a better quarterback than he was in LA, in my opinion, because he can do more things. He's mentally on it. That's what Campbell had to say. Statistically, there is some merit to Campbell's claims. Like I said, last season, when you compare Goff's stats to his Super Bowl season with the Rams, they're almost mirror images. So, in my opinion, Goff was playing at a Super Bowl caliber level, level of play last season, and he's going to do it again this season. I'll say it right now. Goff is going to have north of 30 touchdowns. I think that he might have a couple of more picks this season, and the reason why is this. Take a sip first. The reason why is this. I think that Jameson Williams is going to cause some drama. And what I mean by that is if he doesn't fix his dropsies, those dropsies are going to turn into deflections. And deflections leads to a lot of interceptions in the NFL. So if Jameson's not running the right routes, if he's dropping the ball, it's going to lead to deflections. It's going to lead to interceptions. So for that reason alone, I think that Jared Goff has 2 more interceptions this season just from Jameson Williams. So that puts Goff at 9 interceptions. I hate to say it, but I think Goff might be hitting double digits in interceptions this season, only because I feel like they're going to pass the ball a little bit more. So I'm going to put Goff at 10 interceptions, but I'm also going to have him north of 30 touchdowns. I think he's going to be in that 32, 33, 34 range before playoffs. So just regular season. So when you compare the 27-7 or 29-7 of last season, it's going to be about the same. I just feel like there's just going to be a couple of more because they're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more. But again, I'll put my stats for Goff out, what I feel like he's going to do this season out in a couple weeks. So what they were comparing, or at least what Campbell was saying, is, last season Goff threw for 4,438 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He earned his 3rd Pro Bowl selection in the process. The stats weren't career best for Goff, although Campbell really isn't basing his assessment off numbers alone. He's looking at the role Goff is being asked to play in Detroit and in what he's been able to pull off. They're asking him to do a hell of a lot more than what he did in LA. And LA had a lot of great pieces around Goff to start. And they know that they had a really good defense. Where Goff struggled last season is the defense couldn't make, or they really couldn't make the stop when it needed to happen in the first 8 weeks. And they were left on the field, and they allowed way too many points. I think the last time that I looked at the stats for the defense gave up like 26 points per game. And I think the offense averaged about 27 points per game. One, you're not going to win many games if the defense is letting up more than 19 points a game. Glover Quinn said it best when he said 17 is the number. That's where they're taught to keep opposing offenses under 17. You can win by scoring 21 points in this league. And the Lions did it early and often last season. The defense, they couldn't stop anybody. So 1 or 2 more stops, 1 more win. Lions are in the playoffs last season, and I don't think anybody wanted to see us last season. So who knows where we would have went. They were playing hot at the right moment. Everything was clicking. Everybody was healthy, and they just didn't get one early in the season that would have made the difference. LA blamed Goff for their troubles, which, in my opinion, the public criticism by McVay and the fan base was unwarranted. It wasn't just one man. There was a lot of things that were going wrong with LA during Goff's last season. Um, you look at what Goff was able to pull off last year. A team that starts 1-6. Yeah, not many quarterbacks come back from that. Not many teams come back from that. He stayed in it every single game. He gave his all every single game. He kept fighting every single game. And if you look at how they finished, it's because their quarterback never gave up. Their quarterback was the first one to go in and get his team riled up and ready to go. So that's what we had for headlines tonight. A couple of things I wanted to go over. First, get ready because Villain Squad apparel's coming out here pretty soon. Been working on this for a while. Got a lot of great designs. I really wanted to try to get things launched before training camp. I'm still hoping that I can. My website guys basically failed to deliver, and it's a big problem. So I am looking for somebody to finish the site. I just don't have the time nor the know-how to do it. So really, really sucks when you pay somebody to do a job and sign a contract with them that they decide to take advantage of you and not do their job. So once the site gets rolling, we're going to be rolling out Villain Squad apparel and a lot of cool, fun slogans and things, fun designs that we put together. There'll also be, your officially licensed merchandise stuff that you'll be able to buy too. But all of these proceeds are going to go towards the channel, towards what we're trying to produce, so that we can produce content and do it at a much higher level. And then, of course, a lot of it's going to go back to our foundation that we're going to be starting here in the next several months. Once everything ties together, we know it's a couple years to build everything out, but please visit rockdownpodcastnetwork.com. Right now, you can read some of the blogs. I've had to take a little break off of writing until we can get all things kind of clicking. And once we do, everything will come together. So that's really it for tonight. Just wanted to get into some headlines, review a few things. I got to say, though, look, if you're a Lions fan, don't worry about Goff's arm. Don't worry about this one pass that everybody thinks was underthrown. And I put out a little video the other day to try to get people to realize that, look, when Jameson was running, this was against Reed and the Jets. And it was that 50-yard bomb that J-Mo turned around at the last second. He kind of laid down to catch it. And Reed put his arm in and knocked it away. Look, it's very simple. You can go through and do all the physics and all the math that you want. Okay? All the geometry, the statistics, everything that it takes to do a math problem that involves trajectory and distance and everything else. The simple answer is this. To toss a ball 50 yards takes about a 30-degree angle. Takes about 3.2 to 3.7 seconds to travel 50 yards. If your wide receiver runs a 4.35 40, he's going to beat the ball, hands down, especially when that guy's at full speed and he pushes off at the 26-yard line and the quarterback finally releases the ball when he sees that he's free. When J-Mo's at the 22, Goff releases the ball from the 50. Do the math. From the 22 to the goal line is only going to take J-Mo, what? 2.2 seconds or less? And Goff has to hurl the ball from the 50, which is going to take no less than what? 3.2 seconds? There is no way for Goff to do anything different than what he did. One, he had a defender in front of J-Mo. So you can't throw it more on a rope. You have to put a little bit of trajectory and loft into the ball. So that might make the ball sail a little bit longer in the air. He has to get it up over Reed's head and drop it in the basket of J-Mo. And if you go back and watch that play, that's exactly what he did. That ball was placed perfectly where only Jameson could make the play. And if Jameson didn't make the play, nobody was going to make the play. The sad part is Reed caught up to him and was able to, flail his arms out at the last second and just so happened to hit the ball. The arguments I've been hearing, well, why didn't he throw it further? Why didn't he throw it harder? Why didn't he throw it flatter? Well, if he would have thrown it 3 to 5 yards deeper, or one more. Why didn't he throw JMO open? Why didn't he hit JMO in stride? Look, this was not a planned play. JMO pushed off. When you're hip to hip with a cornerback for 20 yards down the field, there's now one quarterback in the league that's going to throw you the ball. You're hip to hip, and you're a rookie who hasn't done shit the entire season, that has had zero continuity with the quarterback, that has shown no ability to understand the playbook or run a perfect route. Why would a quarterback trust you? He shouldn't, and rightfully so, he shouldn't. I mean, let's call a spade here. Jameson has earned zero credibility with Goff and the Detroit Lions right now. Zero. He has a long way to go. So where Goff threw that ball was in a perfect spot to make a play where nobody makes a play. And yeah, if the ball was thrown an extra yard, it might have been completed for a touchdown. It could have also been tipped and picked. When you look at that play over and over and over, you have Gardner flying up behind Reed off to the right. And I forget the other guy who's coming over off the right, coming over across through the end zone. He's not really in the picture unless you watch the all 22. They start to slow down when they realize that the ball wasn't thrown with a ton of loft. They start to slow down. If that ball is lofted, they're not slowing down. They're going to have a chance of picking that ball off. So Goff made the right decision. He went for it. I'm surprised that he did, but he went for it. And in my opinion, you couldn't have had a better result where nobody made a play. At least it wasn't intercepted, because they were still able to go march down the field right after that. So, it's best to retain the ball than to, go for it and create a turnover where it's not needed. And that's what people don't understand about Goff. He's a hell of a game manager. He protects the ball. He puts your team into the best position to win. And that's what he did. And he takes all of those things into consideration in a millisecond. All of those thoughts are going through his head every single play. And it's more of a muscle memory type reaction than it is thinking, because you really don't have a whole lot of time to think. These plays happen in 3 seconds or less. And if I'm not mistaken, this play happened in about 3 seconds. So I just wish that people would really study the game film and learn from it and understand that not every play is possible. You may think it is. You can wish it to be. You've seen some incredible plays happen in the NFL. Yes, there's a couple of quarterbacks that have phenomenal arms. They have, rifles attached to their shoulder. That doesn't mean that they could have done anything different. There just wasn't an opportunity to do anything different. It's not like Reed is here and Williams is up here ahead of him. They were neck to neck, hip to hip. Williams pushes off and he starts to sail, and then Reed catches up to him. So again, stop bashing the man. Goff is gonna surprise you, and all I'm gonna hear later on in the season is how well Goff is playing and how amazing he is as a quarterback for the Lions. And then what? Then I'm gonna send you a bandwagon T-shirt, because that's how I'm gonna feel about you. So either get on board or buy a bandwagon T-shirt when they come out through Villain Squad Apparel. I'll be more than happy to sell you one. So anyway, next week's show, I'm hoping that Andy can make it. We'd like to get some people on and start discussing what everybody feels about the Detroit Lions. We definitely have some big things coming up later on in the season. We're almost there, guys. Training camp's just around the corner. But that's all we have for tonight. I apologize for getting on late tonight. It's been a hell of a week. I'm on my third laptop in 9 months. And this one hopefully will be fine. Definitely a huge upgrade. So we'll see y'all next week. And as always, keep being a lion. One pride.